The diner off Highway 14 sat like a stubborn relic of the past, its neon sign flickering in the morning light. Inside, the air smelled of bacon grease, hot coffee, and maple syrup. Locals liked it that way, unchanged, familiar. That Saturday morning, the place was unusually full. A group of bikers had claimed 3 booths along the wide window. Their motorcycles, gleaming chrome beasts with flames painted across the gas tanks, were lined outside like a show of dominance. Inside, their voices rose above the clatter of forks and plates. They weren't shy about being noticed. The bell over the door jingled, and for a moment, the noise died down. A man entered, moving carefully, his arms pushing the wheels of a sturdy black wheelchair. His uniform jacket lay folded neatly across his lap, its patches and ribbons catching the light. He wasn't old, perhaps late 30s, with close-cropped hair and eyes that seemed to have seen too much. Some regulars nodded politely. Others lowered their gazes. The waitress, a silver-haired woman named Marlene, brightened. "Good morning, Colonel," she said warmly. "Morning," he answered, his voice low but steady. The colonel maneuvered to a corner table, his movements precise, as if every action had been practiced 1,000 times. He ordered nothing more than a black coffee. At the biker table, a smirk spread across the face of their leader, a heavy-set man with a leather vest and a thick beard. He nudged the man beside him. "Hey, boys. Look at that," Top Gun rolled in. Snickers followed. One of them leaned back in his seat, calling out just loud enough to carry across the room. "Hey, fly boy. Lose your runway?" The colonel didn't react. His hands rested calmly on the arms of his chair. "Maybe he crashed and burned," another biker added, his voice dripping with mockery. "Can't fly without legs, huh?" The group burst out laughing. A couple of diners shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Marlene glared from behind the counter, but her hands trembled too much to intervene. The colonel's gaze flicked to the window, distant and calm. For a man who had survived fire and chaos, a few drunken laughs carried little weight. But the bikers weren't done. "What's he gonna do?" one sneered. "Chase us down with his wheelchair?" Their laughter echoed, sharp and cruel. And then, the door opened again. The bell chimed. 2 young men in crisp Air Force uniforms walked in, followed by 3 more. Then 5. Then 10. Within seconds, 35 men and women filled the diner, their boots hitting the floor in unison. The bikers' laughter died instantly. The air shifted. Every diner turned their head. The group of airmen didn't scatter to random tables, they moved as one, surrounding the colonel's corner booth. "Morning, Colonel," one said, standing tall. "Good morning, sir," another added. The colonel gave a small nod, the faintest smile tugging at his lips. "Morning." The bikers glanced at each other uneasily. Their leader shifted in his seat. "Colonel," he muttered under his breath. Marlene's hand froze mid-pour, the coffee pot hovering over a mug. She whispered to herself, "Colonel, oh my lord." The eldest of the Air Force group, a master sergeant with steel-gray hair, turned his gaze to the bikers. His tone was flat, but it carried authority that made the room feel smaller. "Do you gentlemen have something you wanted to say to our commanding officer?" The bikers stiffened. Nobody answered. The colonel lifted a hand slightly, quieting the tension. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of thunder. "It's all right, Sergeant. They don't know." The biker leader swallowed. "Don't know, what?" The colonel's eyes met his, steady and unflinching. "That I flew over 300 combat missions. That when my plane was hit, I stayed with it long enough to steer it away from a village full of children. That I lost my legs so they could live." His tone never wavered. "They don't know that sacrifice comes with the job. And they don't know that if I had to, I'd do it all again." A hush fell over the diner. Even the sizzling grill behind the counter seemed muted. One of the younger airmen stepped forward, his voice strong. "Sir, you'll always stand taller than any of them." The colonel allowed himself a small smile. He didn't need the validation, his life was proof enough, but the loyalty from his people warmed something inside him. The bikers sat frozen, their arrogance stripped away. The leader's bravado melted into shame. He muttered something that might have been an apology, but it came out too soft to matter. One by one, they slid out of the booth, boots scraping against the tile. Without another word, they shuffled toward the door and disappeared into the parking lot. A moment later, the roar of motorcycle engines broke the silence outside. Inside, the atmosphere shifted. Marlene approached the colonel with misty eyes and refilled his coffee. "This one's on the house," she whispered. "Thank you," he replied gently. The airman spread out across the diner, ordering stacks of pancakes, plates of bacon, and endless mugs of coffee. Their laughter filled the room again, but this time it wasn't cruel, it was warm, the kind that carried camaraderie and respect. At the colonel's table, Marlene lingered. "Colonel," she said softly, "I just want to say, thank you. For your service. For everything." He met her gaze with kindness. "Ma'am, I just did my duty. That's all any of us do." But everyone in the diner knew better. Duty was one thing. Sacrifice, losing what he had lost to protect lives, was something else entirely. The younger diners stole glances at him, their expressions a mix of awe and guilt. They had sat in silence while he was mocked. Now, watching 35 men and women stand around him with respect etched into every movement, they realized they had witnessed something extraordinary. The colonel didn't dwell on the bikers, nor the shame they carried out with them. His mind was elsewhere, on the sky, on the roar of engines, on the pilots still flying missions across the world. The master sergeant leaned down toward him. "Sir, the men and women here, we wouldn't be where we are without you. You paved the way." The colonel shook his head slightly. "No, Sergeant. You carry it forward. That's what matters." His words, steady and quiet, carried more strength than any outburst of anger could have. The rest of the meal passed in a hum of conversation and laughter, the kind that filled cracks left by bitterness. The bikers were forgotten, their mockery drowned out by something far greater, respect, loyalty, and the kind of dignity no insult could touch. When the colonel finally wheeled himself out, flanked by his airmen, the entire diner rose to their feet. Not because they were told to, not because they felt obligated, but because they wanted to. Marlene wiped her eyes with the corner of her apron. "God bless you, Colonel," she whispered as the door closed behind him. Outside, the sky stretched wide and endless, painted in pale blues and streaks of white. The colonel paused for a moment, tilting his head upward. His legs may never touch the ground again, but in his heart, the sky would always belong to him. That morning, everyone inside the diner carried home a lesson they would never forget: true strength isn't in intimidation, but in sacrifice. True respect isn't demanded, it's earned. And the measure of a person isn't in what they've lost, but in what they've given. And the man in the wheelchair, calm, unbroken, steady, had given more than most could ever imagine.